Hello, all, and welcome to our interview with Steve Stepp. Everyone here probably knows him from This Week in Chia, one of his many NFT collections, or potentially even the work he has done to help out on the XEH dev site and provide a free faucet for the test nets that operate on Chia. We're going to go ahead and have a pre-recorded event today. So you'll notice that there are going to be no community questions answered here today. However, Steve will be available for any follow-up and tends to be active in Discord, Twitter, and numerous other social channels. And we'll make sure that all that information is relayed today. After today, we do have a couple of great events coming up this month. We have some interviews that BW Free will host with Bram and Gene, so keep an eye open for those events as they're announced. Without further ado, we're going to start the event with Steve. And Steve, let's go ahead and just start talking about you. What is your professional path and how did you get to where you are now?
Sure. Thank you. I guess I should start with saying I went to college for computer science. I graduated high school in like the early 90s and then graduated college in the late 90s and I started at a local window and door manufacturing plant here in the city I live in and was like the one IT guy. So I pretty much did everything from cables to printers to programming to telephones, like everything. And I worked there for probably 11 or 12 years, I think, before I changed jobs and started working at a local hospital. And I started there. The title was called a programmer analyst, which is pretty much what I do, although the title changed at one point to solutions architect, which I'm not sure that's really the role I feel, but that's the title anyway. But yeah, and so I've been doing that ever since then, and I've really enjoyed it. That's been another 12 years. So
Yeah, that's excellent. Quite a rich background too, and can definitely tell that you have a mind for security while working in a healthcare industry there.
for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so more onto the Chia side, what led you to find out about Chia? How did you start to get involved, and where did this passion come from?
Yeah, so that could be a longer story, but I guess my introduction to crypto probably was back in um maybe like the boom around 2018 or so with I just dabbled some in Coinbase and some other one that failed, Cryptopia or something like that. And anyway, I lost all the money that was in that because it was I did not have it in my own wallet. I had it in their wallet or whatever. So when that site uh ended, what I had, and I didn't have maybe a few $100s or whatever, but still, that was my introduction. And I think actually around that same time, I minted my first NFT on Ethereum, and I wasn't super. I wasn't sure what I was doing, and I didn't know the difference between like Ethereum or sorry, OpenSea and Rare, whatever that other one is. And yeah, anyway, it ended up costing me like $75 to mint one image. From that point on, I was like, well, this is crazy. I'm not doing that anymore. So, and I was playing around with like hobby photography at that time. So my original thought was I would mint all my photography as NFTs. And I decided I couldn't afford to spend $75 to $80 every time I wanted to mint a photograph. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and so then many years went by until I stumbled on the Modern Finance podcast with Kevin Rose, where Bram did an interview. I think it was on like the second episode, and I knew who Bram was from way back from the BitTorrent days, but he also had been on the Tech TV network, Tech.tv, which for me goes back into the 90s with like ZDTV way back when it was on cable. And that's that was kind of where I got started with Kevin Rose, who knew he was, and then so I was following his stuff, which led into Bram, and then I've followed him on Twitter since the beginning, I guess. And when I heard him do that interview, I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the one that I'm interested in, because I've did feel like I missed the whole Bitcoin time frame. Like I was very skeptical when that first happened. And obviously that was a mistake. So yeah, so once I heard that, I was like, oh, this will be fun. And then I just jumped in head first. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's excellent. And quite a rich background to be able to know and experience these other blockchains, and not only the, user side of it, and having the fallout from being in a custodial solution, but then also as a creative mind trying to publish your own NFTs on Ethereum. And of course, tying it all back into development and your mindset on the coding and development aspect. And we can obviously see, based on everything you do within Chia, how passionate you are. But do you mind just diving a little bit more into what led you to start working on Chia? Obviously you saved a little bit on the NFTs for cost, but what was really kind of that click for you outside of the Kevin Rose podcast?
yeah, I, I don't know really. That's a hard question. I just think it's fun. Uh, yeah, just started. My first mindset was I'm going to start farming, and so that's where I started. And I built a farm, a few hundred terabytes probably in the beginning. I got lucky and bought like around 20 18 terabyte drives before like it went crazy on Amazon. So I got before that first huge spike anyway. And then I slowly grew over time. I did have one friend locally who got in as well, and within a few weeks decided he wanted to tap out, and so I bought all his equipment out from him. And so anyway, yeah, I grew the farm since then, and that led me into like monitoring type tools and different things, but I wasn't comfortable running other people's code that I didn't know what it did. So I started kind of playing around with the CLI and just making my own. Actually, I had this digital counterboard that came from like a way station. I don't even know how I got this, but it was like a 3-character digital board, and I hooked that up through a serial port to my computer, and I wrote a C# program that would, every time I every time I created a new plot, it would add one to the counter. And this is when it was taking 12 hours to do a plot. And so I would watch that counter on the wall, go up as I was plotting. So
Oh,
I
wow.
eventually made it past 999 and had to, I think for the comedy, I put a piece of paper on the wall that had a 1 on it. But I quickly ended up making like a web page where I was updating the web page to as a counter, and then that led into my own like full dashboard that I still use today to monitor my farm, all the drives and how many plots are on each one and all that kind of stuff. So.
That is awesome. That is, yeah, really fantastic. I know I've seen your dashboard a couple of times, and that's obviously just the tip of the iceberg when we start talking about your involvement in Chia development. Do you mind touching on some of the other development projects that you've worked on?
Sure. Well, even starting with that one, I did publish all the code for that dashboard. It was like one of my first blogs I did. I have done a number of blogs that were sort of like tutorial, I guess, based blogs, and that one was by far the largest one because it was the code for everything. But yeah, I didn't write out a full list of all the different uh, ones I have, but I've done a bunch of different ones script wise. Like I really enjoyed. So I had played with Linux over the years. I've been into tech my entire life, so in computers since I think I wrote my first program at age 8, which is like over 40 years ago. So, uh, but yeah, so I've been into computers and stuff for a long, long time. Where was I going with this? And then Bash, yeah. So, but I got back into Linux with Chia. I had dabbled a few times over the years, but got back in big with Chia and Bash specifically, and really loved that and all the different command line tools. And yeah, so that was a big spot of joy. Like I just have a lot of fun doing that, and so that's what led me into that dashboard. That's what's led me into nearly all of the NFT collections that I do from the command line, like through Bash scripts. And I make it probably more complicated than it needs to be, but I may like create some sort of tool that would randomly pick names from a huge list of names, or um, quite a few of them. I randomly pinpoint pixels within the image and use that to derive a value for. I use the D20. What am I trying to say? Dungeons and Dragons gaming system type things where like you have strength and intelligence. And anyway, so I pick pixels out of the image and use that to derive a value for it. And yeah, so I've written a number of scripts around that kind of thing and published quite a few of them on GitHub as well.
That's excellent. If you don't mind just sharing your GitHub username for anybody watching and they can
Sure.
follow along.
Yeah, it's Stepp SR. I got that name or that username, I guess, in college. That was just issued to me because my last name is Stepp. My first name is Steve, which is the S, and my middle name starts with the R. So that's
Gotcha.
where, yeah, that's a lot of people say Stepper, but it's SR. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what it is on GitHub, and there's a bunch of stuff out there. Anybody's well, it's all open source, so everybody's welcome to take it and ask questions or whatever.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I know I've gone through a number of your scripts and definitely fascinating. And I love how you always take the time to polish them with some form of a user experience and user interface so that when people are first getting into it, they don't really need to know what the background is from the get-go. They can start with that user experience, learn more about it, and then if they want to change the code, they can. So I know I've always appreciated that.
I do try to make, or at least some of the more recent ones, I've been trying to build them in as sort of like runnable interactive scripts, I guess. Like that would offer a menu system to make it easier for people who don't know how to write scripts or code, to just get a menu system and choose which option do you want, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and work through like a menu type system to perform some action, whatever the tool is doing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this brings up two very important questions. And it's one, you've already addressed some of the programming languages that you've used and written or worked with in order to develop on Chia. But then on the other side, what are some of the challenges you've come across while developing on Chia?
So languages, if you're asking which languages that I use, so predominantly like Bash scripting and PowerShell scripting, which I'm not as huge a fan of PowerShell. And actually, for a long time in the beginning of Chia, I just used Batch, like Windows Batch, not even PowerShell. You can get by with a lot of stuff just with Batch. And then like for web, I mostly do PHP, and then I have had some Python. I did like an online course in game programming with Python, so I'm a little familiar, but I'm not an expert on Python.
Mhm.
I probably should bite the bullet and just start like throw PHP away and start using Python, but I haven't done it yet. But
Understood. Yeah.
in college I took many languages. Most of my what's the word I'm looking for? Most of my non-core required classes. What do you call the classes that electives?
Electives.
Elective classes, I took some form of programming language, that basic and Visual Basic and C, C++, Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, assembly, like pretty much any of them you can think of from that era in the 90s. Actually, yeah, Visual Basic was out, but not .NET. So I hit .NET after I graduated college. So
That is excellent. So, with such a rich programming background and knowledge of so many different languages, what did you see as the easiest way to develop on Chia, and what issues did you run into while trying to build out some of these different applications?
um so, so the difficult part for me is I tend to be in a silo. Like I'm off on my own doing my own thing. There's not a lot of people to go to get help. Like for instance, just recently I was trying to figure out, I don't know how to sure to pronounce this, but that BECH32 algorithm. Do you pronounce that as Beck or Betch or?
I'd always pronounced it as Beck. Yep.
Okay, Beck, yeah. So I was trying to figure that out. I have it working in Python, but I want the PHP version of it. And I really struggle with that. And Chat GPT let me down, and Copilot let me down. And there's just not a lot of people. The few people who are in the community who could probably help are super busy as well, and I don't want to take up their time to explain some complex algorithm to me. So I'll get it eventually. I'm still working on that one, but yeah, so that's somewhat some of the hurdles that I see is like, for me anyway, is I'm a little siloed and there's not a ton of resources to go to, I guess. But I don't think that necessarily people need to know Chia Lisp. Like there's a lot of programming or applications that can be done that don't dive that deep. Although, I mean, you could dive that deep, but you don't have to. I don't feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I know a number of our other conversations have been similarly inclined as to it's really those wrapper languages that become the specialty, and you use a lot of the primitives that are already baked into it. On your other points and about resources, I think, C and I can definitely echo that concept, and that's one of the big reasons for the push on Chia Academy. And a big shout out if anybody does have the time and wants to take the time to develop a Chia Academy course. We do currently have a contest ongoing where if you develop a Chia Academy course and you are one of the winners, you receive a free Time Lord. So we have a option for individual submissions and also options for team submissions, but feel free to jump into our Discord or jump onto our Twitter in order to ask for more information on that. We also have a blog article covering it. But Steve, I know we've spent a lot of time discussing development and coding and kind of the challenges in that regard, but you're a man of many hats, and you don't just work on Chia from a development standpoint, but you're also a creative mindset. So if you don't mind kind of going over a little bit about your NFT projects and also how a lot of those tie into some of your development work as well.
Sure. Yeah. I have quite a few different, I guess, NFT projects now, since it's been like 2 years or whatever. But the first one I started was the Battle Cats, and I had kind of funny. They're sort of a spinoff of a different collection I had started, at least producing art for, with the early version of Midjourney, and it was going to be warriors that were kind of like Conan the Barbarian style characters, and it was horrible artwork. Like it was an early version of Midjourney that wasn't really very good, but somehow in that process, I got a cat in one of them, and that led me down the path of thinking about like the battle cat that's in He-Man, like the old 80s cartoon. And there may be cartoons now more modern, but yeah, so that took that concept of the word battle cat, and I started that first collection. And then using like some chat GPT to help write some backstory and stuff like that, I sort of came up with the concept of the battle dogs, and then they, the battle dogs come to the rescue for the battle cats against the evil space bugs or whatever. And there's more planned that will happen in that series. Well, actually, I've already mentioned it, so I'll say it again. Is Super Battle Cats is going to be coming. I have most of the artwork done already. I just need to. I just enjoy doing a bunch of different things, and I just have too many irons in the fire. Really, that one is almost ready to release at any time. So,
Man,
uh,
that's excellent.
yeah, and then I have a few others that I've done. I have one that I did with the Mentor tool, that the AI specials, all those I've minted through your tool. From, you have to remind me, some set or whatever that is.
Correct,
Is that
correct.
right? Yeah. I always want to
Yep,
say sunset, but it's some set. Yeah.
you
So
got
I
it.
use,
And if you don't mind, I just need a little disclosure in here. Not only do I work with CNI, I also have my own company that tends to build on top of Chia, and that is Sumset Tech. These are separate operations, so that's what we're referring to here as one of my side projects within Sumset Tech. Sorry
right.
about that.
That's all right. Yeah, I probably should have said that. Yeah, so anyway, I've minted all of those through that tool, and then I've minted, started doing some AI special badges using Mint Garden's new edition um, feature, I guess, that they have, which just turned out kind of neat. At least I feel like. And I also did a recent one that's really successful that I'm probably going to do. Well, depends on how you gauge success, I guess. But it seemed like it was popular anyway. That I probably will do some more on, called recruits. And the way I was doing that is they're basically free, but in order to get it, you have to own a certain data layer minion that has a certain set of attributes. And I was naming them like factions, kind of like the video game Destiny. And so a certain set of these attributes would be considered a faction. And if you owned one, I airdropped you a recruit. And the thought was to help generate revenue for the work that Michael Taylor is doing on the data layer. And so, and the recruits are all minted from data layer. They're all on data layer and minted from data layer. So yeah, and there probably will be more factions to come on that. I don't have anything planned at the moment, but I do have some artwork already ready. So
Yeah,
uh,
I know I'm an active participant in your NFT scene, and I really like the work that you did with the recruits and that collaboration with Michael Taylor for the data layer project. Definitely an exciting one. And for everybody out in the audience here, just to make sure you guys can follow along with what Steve does and how he builds out, do you mind sharing your Twitter or your X handle, as they call it now, so that they can keep up to date?
sure. You're going to find me at Stepp SR on pretty much everything. So that is my Twitter or X handle. That's me on Instagram. That's me on Discord. That's my Gmail. If you want to email me, that's yeah. I use that same username on pretty much everything. And usually when it's some new type service comes out, I go and grab that name, whether or not it actually used the service or not. So yeah. So
That's
you'll be able
great.
to find me there. Stepp SR. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Now, we've talked a lot about your development. We've talked about some of your NFT projects and how that ties into some of that development as well. But we have yet to talk about some of your other more forward-facing projects also. So This Week in Chia and some of your faucets. Let's start with This Week in Chia. What was your inspiration behind building that? And tell us more about the newsletter itself.
Yeah, I just kind of stumbled into that. I'm not sure how that happened. It just what has it been, like a year and a half or so? Not quite a year and a half, but getting close to a year and a half. I was tweeting a bunch of news, obviously, like as I would see different things, I would tweet it. And then for whatever reason, thought that, I should pull these tweets out into like a website. And honestly, I stole the name This Week in Chia from This Week in Tech, which is a popular podcast. And so I just made it This Week in Chia. And yeah, uh, it's grown over time for sure. At one point, ended up moving it to Data Layer, so it's now totally hosted on Data Layer. Uh, a big thank you to Michael for that, because it required quite a bit of help. I think I was a guinea pig in some ways, and also like the canary in the tunnel for killing things. So yeah. Um, yeah, but it's been fun. Started doing advertisements on it, which worked out well. Like the only time you ever see my own projects advertised on there, which there is one this week, but that's only the few times that occurs is because I didn't find an advertiser for that week. And typically I'll take, well, I wasn't totally doing this in the beginning, but this is what I do now is I'll take half of whatever that advertisement fund is and send on to the weekly highlight. Each week I'll try to highlight one community project or person, or there's no rules really. So just highlight one thing, and send them a little bit of love and post about it. Hopefully others maybe are inspired to send a little love as well, that kind of thing. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I've used it as a great source for consolidation of information in the Chia space. So I really appreciate your work on that side. Now, if you don't mind touching a little bit on the different faucets you've created. We all know that you have the testnet faucet, and then another side project that I collaborated with you on was the Kiwi faucet as well. Do you mind going through why did you want to build a faucet?
well, for the fun of it. It all goes back to the fun of it. Every question you answer me is probably, or ask me, is probably going to be for the fun of it. But I started with the testnet faucet, and I don't really know why. I don't really know why I did it, honestly. It's been long enough now. It's been running for so long that I have forgotten how I got into it. Although I do know that Morpheus, user on Discord, helped me in the beginning with funds, and he co-farmed mainnet and testnet, working with the guy from alltheblocks.net or .com or whatever. Anyway, they got the whole reclaiming after 7 or 8 days or whatever it is, 7 days, I guess. Got that worked out, and he earned like a ton of TXCH and sent me like 50,000, I think, TXCH to fund the faucet wallet. And then it's all built in with bash scripts. So it's all just command line, like just like I was using the CLI and writing out commands. Well, I said it's all written in bash, but all the back end is written in bash. And it's like a cron jobs that run, check to see if there's any new requests. If there are, sends them all out. And so all that's happening in bash. And then the front end itself, the web page, that's PHP. And I had to write my own little like API to call between bash and the PHP to get new requests. And also like on that one, the wallet balance is up there, so it sets the wallet balance as well.
Oh. Mhm.
But that was the first one. And then at some point you blew my mind when you said, hey, what about an NFT faucet? And I don't know why I had never even considered that. But yeah, so then we went down that road, and that was a little more complex. And by the way, all these projects are up. The code is up on GitHub as well. And for the Kiwi faucet one, the NFT faucet, I wrote out like a diagram, I kind of work a little bit visually. Like I have to kind of see it, visualize it, and then I can go like map it out first, and then I can go and try to tackle it. So that's what I did. And there's a like an image of sort of the workflow of how that happens. And yeah, that one was pretty successful. I ended up kind of closing it down and transition it. It also lives on data layer as well now. The site is just like a memorial, but it's not giving out NFTs anymore.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that was an exciting project, and I got to say, I just gave you the idea, and you took the ball and ran with it, and did an
yeah,
excellent job. Yep.
well, it was almost like a challenge. Like you challenged me, like I bet you can't do this, and I was, I'll take that challenge. Uh, yeah, but I have been working on another one that is like a fork of Chia. So I did the faucet for ABBA or ABBA or however we're saying that. So
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's
I did
great. Absolutely.
that one as well. Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate to all the participants here that, Steve is very active. He does a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different places to find him. But he also has a site where he has consolidated all of his work with quick links. And if you don't mind sharing that site there, Steve.
Sure. I assume you're talking about xchdev.com. Um, Pretty much most of my that one started as just like a placeholder for links for myself, really, and then it's grown as the different projects have grown that I've done. So yeah. The original intention was to be focused more on development, like coding type development, but I don't know if I would say that it's totally focused on that now. It's just kind of evolved into its own thing. But yeah, I do try to. That's the area that I enjoy, so I do try to stick to that, I guess, to a degree. But I did have listed most of my NFT projects up there. There's way more than what we covered earlier, so there's a lot out there if anyone was interested in NFTs. So
Absolutely, and definitely worth checking out that xchdev.com site. He has a whole bunch of other links. And another thing, we'll come back to some of the other projects and the other development that you've been doing, but I know another thing that you have active right now is the XDTs site. So this is
oh yeah.
an unofficial merch store. It has a lot of Chia-esque items on it. Of course, you do a great job at balancing the IP and what you can actually have on those shirts. But do you mind sharing just a little bit of information and some of the things that people can find on that site?
Yeah, there's quite a bit out there. There's not a lot of sales total, like it's probably between $400 and $500 total sales, which profit wise, that means it's probably about $40 or $50 profit for me, which is kind of a hassle for taxes. But I really made it honestly because I wanted my own t-shirts actually here, like this. Can you see it? Yeah, there you go. And I wanted a way to print and get my own t-shirts, and that was a way to do it. And I was just shared the link because anybody could, and I don't put much of a profit on it, so that's why um well, I said it's almost not worth it for taxes. But yeah, so there's a bunch of things on there. It started out mainly with t-shirts, but I've added phone cases, and even for Monkey Zoo, I have an actual suitcase. Like it's a pricey item, but it's super funny. Like that monkey character on a suitcase. It's pretty funny. But there was Christmas wrapping paper with the Chia Friends, the specific Chia Friends that I own 7, I think, and I used those specific ones. What else? There's blankets and cutting boards and mouse pads. Actually quite a few different mouse pads that I did. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff. I've added some based on some people's requests. Like I made some for the Tang Gang. For those shirts, I think I made t-shirts for the Tang Gang, and yeah, so just a bunch of different things. I'm happy to add more if someone has ideas, as long as Yeah, as long as I have like the permission to use like the graphic or whatever. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And
and
I
that
just want to reiterate that point. I know I had a request that was not Chia related at all, but I really liked the style and the design of some of your mouse pads, and you even went with a kind of Hawaiian themed mouse pad, so I give it to my mom for her birthday. And yeah, I really appreciate that you're willing
yeah.
to work with anybody on those types of things.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I used on those, I used AI to do it. I went on Mid Journey and ran a bunch of different prompts until I got one that I felt like was good. And then that's why I made four of them, because I want to give you like a variety of options to choose from. And I did that same sort of thing for like um, I don't know if I should say, I probably shouldn't say who's bought from there. I'll let whoever has purchased from it before say their own thing. But yeah, there's been some sales like that, other items as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And the one item I really have to call out, it's the same design that's on your shirt, but it is the puzzle of Gene. And
oh
I
yeah,
just every time I look at the side, I'm like, ah, I need to get that. I need to get that. That's the next one on my list.
that would be a really good one to get the puzzle, do it, and then like they make it where you can like glue it together into like a poster almost. I feel like that would be pretty cool myself. But,
Completely agreed. Yeah, a little epoxy resin or
right,
back it
yeah.
in. Yep, yep. Oh man, that would be so cool.
But that website, if anybody was interested, is xdtees.printify.com. And you can find it off of that xchdev.com website. There's a link to it. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I do
Thank
it
you.
for the fun of it, really, and to buy my own t-shirts, really. Although I did recently for the AI special badges, decided there were so few that sold to the Battle Cats badge, which I really liked, but it gave me the opportunity to like I've gifted the owners t-shirts. So
Uh,
I sent Drac was one of them that sent him. He bought a couple. I sent him a couple t-shirts.
mhm. That's great, and that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about working with you is all of the different aspects of the ecosystem in which you're involved. You touch on the t-shirt side, you touch on the development side, you're a creative mindset, you farm, and I kind of want to go back to the farming mindset actually. So you mentioned that you started farming pretty much right at launch of Chia. You had the experience of really long plot times, and you've seen everything change since then. What are kind of your biggest takeaways as to the difference between farming when you started and farming now?
Oh, well, I mean, it's pretty obviously it's pretty big difference if you're just looking at like how long does it take to plot. Like that first plot I did that took 12 hours, and now Digital Spaceport's doing it in less than a minute, like 30 seconds or whatever. Like it's just insane to me that it's improved that amount in such a short a period of time. Um, I have more plotting to do. I have more empty hard drives, and I'm in the middle of transitioning to a rack. And I'm not a hardware fan, which is I've been dragging my feet. But I do need to finish that. But I'm undecided on what I want to do with the drives. Like, do I want to plot them compressed? Because I only have one real graphics card, so I would have to like get them all in a JBOD that would use the one graphics card for what am I trying to say? Harvesting.
Mhm.
But I don't know if I'm not sure if I want to do that, or if I just will stick with the like even the plots I have now are not compressed. Uh yeah,
It,
I don't know. So I need to make a decision, and I need to jump on it, because my goal was to have it done before the halvening, and I missed that goal. So
I I know the feeling, and I know I kind of went through the same process. I'm sitting with all OG plots here, and I did some compressed plots to test out the software, but I realized I don't want to have a GPU running the entire time. And
yeah, exactly. Exactly. exactly where my mindset is right now. Is yeah.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to give me grief about having a bunch of empty drives that I need to fill.
No, no, those are perfect for when you're testing out the other chains.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Or
Like
load it up with a bunch of K25s to farm on testnet.
I do have a drive full of plots for testnet, honestly.
Yep, yeah, you know. Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. So I kind of want to open it up to you here. I know you have some really interesting plans for the future. You have a couple of things that you've recently built out that you're going to be releasing soon and might be released along the same time as this video. But I want to open it up to you. What does the future hold for you, for XDTs, for all of your different projects?
Yeah, so I definitely have plans for like more NFT collections because I've already mentioned several. Well, publicly, but I've mentioned one on here, the Super Battle Cats, but I have others that I've mentioned in other, like on Twitter before, I think. So yeah, there are some more NFT collections coming. Oh, I mentioned recruits. Yeah, I plan on doing more recruits as well. So I do enjoy data layers, so I want to support Michael Taylor's efforts there. Well, the whole community's efforts there, really. So I'll be doing more of that. I will be doing other scripting projects for sure. I'm probably skipped a few that I could have talked about, like offer code. It was a is a like a short URL type website for offer files. It's offerco.de. And basically you can take like the big long text for an offer file, drop that onto that site, and it'll create you a short URL that will point to that offer for to that offer. And if it's on the Chia blockchain, like you really, it doesn't have to be. It could be any fork of the blockchain as well, honestly. But if it's on the Chia one, it's got integration with Dexy to look up the offer and give you more information about that offer right there on that site. And I think there's a description box where you could add in your own free text that you want to, put about that offers URL or whatever. So that was a neat project that I did for. I did it. What I used that for a puzzle somewhere, right? I, I'm actually drawing a blank now. And I used
Yeah,
I had to plan as a puzzle for one of the NFT projects, and that's why I built the site. And I at the moment drawing a blank on which one it was, but and then there was one other one which is going to lead into what you hinted at a while ago that I built at the originally it was called xdnft.online, but I have since changed that to be xdnft.link. And XDNFT is sort of a bash script that I wrote way back that was the first like interactive script with a menu system that would be like tools for sort of creators or NFT creators. And then I transitioned some of the functionality, not all of it, to a website. Not all of it because some of it requires your own wallet. And but what I could, I've moved to the website and use the Mint Garden API to power that site and do some things that some tasks that are beneficial for like if you're wanting to do an airdrop and you want to find out who all owns a specific collection. You could go in, put in the collection ID, it would return back all of the NFTs from that collection, and you could get all of the owner wallets for the people who own those NFTs. And then so that's pretty neat and I think useful. And so using that website, the xdnft.link, I guess it's a good time to say that I am creating a new video series called Creator Coding. And I think I have 4 or 5 parts to it so far. There may be more, but those are the ones I've made so far that'll be probably on YouTube by the time this comes out. And it's called Creator Coding. And it's going to basically walk through how I built that website, using the Mint Garden API, going into the actual code of the website itself, and then also like doing an airdrop. So it walks through each of those. Some of them are fairly short, some of them are more longer in length, but that series is probably out now, so check it out.
Man, that is excellent. I know I love the videos. You gave me the opportunity to see them a little bit ahead of time here, and I appreciate that. And definitely worth the watch. That definitely leads into the other concept, though, of obviously a big shout out to Mint Garden and to Acevale, who runs Mint Garden there. What other community members have been beneficial along your journey, and do you want to give shout outs to?
Oh, I spell definitely for sure. I mean, I feel like it's all the people that we all know. If you're part of the community, you know all of them. But I guess the ones who that I have done the most with are probably ones that offer an API. So Space Scan, I've used that API. Mint Garden, like I've used that API so many times. I should send him more XCH as payment for how much I use it. Uh, yeah, there are others. I use um, so I use the RPC quite often as well. But Don Kackman has that documentation of like every time there's a new version of Chia, he goes out and updates the documentation, which that is crucial. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things without that documentation. So that's super powerful. I use that all the time. He should put a donation address on there because I would donate to that for sure. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, not to overshadow anybody else who's assisted you along the way, but we just wanted to get some of those top names that come to mind there. And on that point, when you're looking at all of these different projects and everything you've done, the the only way that we've heard that you make a little bit of money is some of your NFT sales, but a lot of those you're giving out for pretty much free. And then also the online store, which you identified you're not making much profit on. So it really shows that this is a passion project for
Uh,
you. And if you don't mind
well,
just talking a little bit more about that passion and what brought you into Chia and kind of final notes for any farmers, developers, or creators that want to work on Chia.
I mean, my ultimate goal is I'm not saying I don't want to make money. Everybody wants to make money, but my ultimate goal was to have fun. But I am farming, so although I have bought a lot of NFTs, I do I am acquiring XCH as well. So the thought is 5, 10 years from now, it'll be worth more than what I spent acquiring it. But it's also invaluable the amount of pleasure I get out of a new challenge, a new coding challenge, sharing what I've done with the community, and yeah, it's just all fun. Like it also taps into like create art wise creativity that way. Like I didn't have like I mentioned hobby photography, but once I got a member or a subscription to Midjourney and could like create these images off of prompts and stuff, I really find that fun and fascinating. And I'm minting collections all the time, sometimes just because I like it. I'm not necessarily minting it because I think it's going to sell great or make money or anything. I'm just minting it because it's fun, you know. And some of them have done really well, actually. Some of them surprisingly have done. I didn't even talk about the Astrobots, but I think that's my best-selling collection, and I made the most money off of that one. And it was maybe the quickest and fastest one I ever did. Like it was surprising. Like, but yeah. So, but that's my ultimate long-term goal is just have fun. So,
Man, I think that needs to be a sound bite right there.
I mean, yeah, it's fun, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that's why I'm here too. It's so much fun and to be able to work with great developers and entrepreneurs like yourself, it makes it really exciting. And to that point, what are some of your recommendations for other farmers, developers, or creatives that want to join the Chia ecosystem? Where are some good places to start?
Creators like so if they're NFT creators, I would probably start with Mint Garden Studio. And that would be, I probably would direct everybody that way, at least as a starting point. If you're coding, again, as I had mentioned earlier, I don't necessarily think that you need to start like in Chia list. That might be a challenge, unless that's just what you like, and then sure. But there's plenty of other areas. Like find an area that you find interesting. Like say if you think data layer is interesting, or you just like farming, but you want to do coding, there's probably tools that you can build somewhere in that arena as well, if that's what you want to do. So I would just find an area of focus that you enjoy and start there, because it's massive. Like you could go all over the place, and it might be overwhelming if you were trying to do everything. Like that's the scenario I would get myself into, as I try to do too many things. And yeah, so I would find one area that you enjoy and focus on that, and get your feet wet. Yeah.
Man, thank you very much. Yeah, and I can reiterate and echo all of that for sure. Definitely great starting points. And I'm going to open it up to you one last time here now that we're getting near the end of the hour. And is there anything we did not touch on that you wanted to address, or any other items that you wanted to mention to the participants here?
I think we covered the basics. I'm just doing a quick scan. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered the basics. My main focus pretty much every day is news. So I go through like Twitter and Discord and different. I have different like Google alerts set up, and I'm following different repos on GitHub. Like I'm trying to acquire all this news, and post on This Week in Chia. So I guess that's sort of my primary focus, and each day. And then on the off times when I'm not scanning for news, I find some other fun tasks to work on. And lately it's Beck 32. I'm hoping to make some online tools, similar, sort of like Space Game's got some of those tools, but yeah, I'm trying to do some of those on the XCH Dev website. So we'll get
And
there.
that's excellent. I know I look forward to seeing them myself, and utilizing those tools. And thank you so much, Steve, for taking the time today and letting me really drill in with some of the hard questions and figure out more about you, your experience on Chia, and then also your background before ever coming to Chia. It's really been insightful. It's been really, really exciting, to be honest with you. So it's always great talking with you, Steve. So thank you
Yeah,
very much for your time today.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate, anybody who does want to find Steve, you can find him on his news site, This Week in Chia. You can also find him on any of the social networks as Stepp SR, STEPPSR. And of course, we'll circulate some of that information as we release this video as well. Do stay tuned for the Discord announcements and events. We will have some more events coming up this week and also throughout the rest of the month. And as I mentioned, those will include a nice interview from BW Free, where he dives in with Gene and with Bram. But thank you again, Steve. I appreciate your time today. To everybody else, thank you for jumping in and watching this excellent interview with Steve. Have a
All right.
wonderful day, all.
Thank you.